September last year, the prestigious Wall Street bank Lehman Brothers crashed, sparking a world banking crisis. The flow of cheap international credit froze, and suddenly our banks were out of money to do ordinary business. Share prices plummeted and so did commercial property values. Before long, the government had to guarantee that depositors' money was secure and banks could pay what they owed, $440 billion.
Wrong and unacceptable, and I would like to apologise.
I have to say that I regret some of the lending decisions that were made.
And then you paid your fat cats big, obscene salaries.
At this crucial moment, the watchdog of the banks, the one person above all who's supposed to know what's going on, told us.
And by any estimate, the Irish banks are so well capitalised compared to any banks anywhere across Europe that I am confident that they can absorb any loans or any impairments that emerge in the ordinary course of business.
Despite the fact that the banks were making monthly and even weekly disclosures to the Financial Regulator's Office, the impression given about their financial position was wholly inaccurate. Not long after, Anglo-Irish Bank had to be bailed out for $3 billion and was later nationalised, and AIB and Bank of Ireland were given a total of $7 billion. We'd followed the Anglo-American model of light touch regulation, advertising abroad the International Financial Services Centre and our entire financial system as the most light touch of all. So when regulation failed globally, we failed spectacularly. It wasn't as if we hadn't had our fair share of banking scandals before.
You would say that AIB has a history of getting itself into trouble, from ICI back in the 80s, the dirt scandal in the 90s, overcharging obviously, and the John Rusnak affair in the United States. A pattern seems to be emerging there where things happened but there was no particular consequence.
Eugene McErlin is a former internal auditor turned whistleblower about AIB trading in its own shares. He saw at first hand how a lack of fear of regulation influenced attitudes at AIB.
When there is no expectation of enforcement, the attitude of the banks will match that attitude.
All the banks sensed, and all the bankers sensed, there were no rules. They were what they called principles-based regulation, which is a sort of pompous word for saying there were no rules they were going to enforce at all.
If there was an inspection from, say, a UK regulator, you would be spending a lot of time sort of preparing for that, and it would be quite stressful. Whereas an examination from the regulator here in Ireland was really not something to be terribly bothered about. It was quite relaxed.
Pat Neary presided as regulator over much of the boom until he stepped down earlier this year with a golden handshake of $630,000 and an annual pension of $142,000.
He always struck me as a shy man, not a very confident person, but he was a bright enough person. As chair of the Financial Regulator's Consumer Panel, Brendan Burgess is one of many people who took up banking issues with Neary and his staff. After years of battling, he resigned shortly after the regulator's 2006 report. We said in our 2006 report that the financial regulator looks for excuses not to take action. And